So hi guys, Jonathan Graham here for Guitar Interactive Magazine. We are here at the Keeping the Blues Alive Cruise Mediterranean version, and we're here with Eddie and Dave from Eddie 9 Volt. Now, how are you doing today, guys?
Doing great, man. It's the first day I actually got some good rest, and yeah, it's been great. I woke up, had some breakfast, went out to the pool deck, watched stuff, the boat slowly come alive. Normally I'm the one that's been dead during that, but it's good, man.
Now you guys, you've really been taking the boat by storm. I mean, anyone who's caught you can't help but feel that energy come off the stage, and it's just pure joy to watch you guys.
Well,
This is our first experience of seeing you guys in the live setting, because you haven't found your way over to the UK just yet. But can we just start there? I mean, when do you think we'll see you guys, hitting the UK stages?
Man, our goal was to at least be there this year, and there still may be a small window where we can kind of pop in over there. But I know for a fact we'll be there at the very latest 2024.
Absolutely. So what preparation for a show like this is a little bit different. You guys have played some festivals and tons of like headline shows on your own. But how's preparation for something like this, where it's full on 24/7 in a sense, where you're always got to be on?
Well, man, it's kind of a good thing, because we've been on the road for about 2 months, almost 3 months now, and so we've been on that grind for so long now, and it's just kind of, the hours have been really tough, because we flew from San Francisco to Atlanta, to Turkey, then Turkey to Greece, so it's been crazy trying to, that's the hardest thing, is the time changes. But other than that, man, I mean, we stay out, we like to have fun, and we find bars in all the little towns we play, and so we're a late night crowd for sure, man.
Now, David, I was amazed to find out that you're a relatively new addition to this lineup, because to see you guys live is like, you guys are like a family on stage. There's so much eye contact, smiles, everyone's having a great time. You don't know where the songs are going to go next, but you keep it all together at the back. If the drums are not right, forget the rest.
Well, yeah, our chemistry is crazy. It feels like I've been playing with these guys for half my life, and like you said, I'm relatively new, but these are my brothers, and we genuinely have a good time on stage, and we want everyone else who's in the audience to have a good time with us, so I'm very blessed to be with these guys, and we're just having fun and killing it.
Absolutely. And obviously there's a few of your sort of Atlanta sort of brothers on the cruise, and that vibe is very much felt. There's this sort of brotherhood that's going on throughout the shows. Just talk a little bit about that special scene that's going on in Atlanta right now.
Oh, Atlanta has a little bit of everything going on. It's such a great city, and it's just such great variety. The blues scene is great. You have also R&B and the jazz scenes and things like that. All the different venues and a lot of legendary places to play at. So it's a lot of great company to be with. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Eddie, where does music begin for you then?
Music begins for me. I have a picture when I was 6 years old, when I was, and I had one of them guitars with the speakers in it, and but I started out as a drummer naturally. That's why I like good drummers, But yeah, I started as a drummer, and it really it made my rhythm a lot better. And we did everything from death metal, hardcore metal, to folk, and then after we were in a metal band, I went to a diner, a checkerboard diner, and I was wearing a suit, tie, and Florsheim shoes. It's just like, we've done everything, and we've tried to, my whole career has just been throwing a dart at a dartboard, seeing, whatever genre it was, and it just happened to be that I always kind of knew I was going to go back to soul and roots and blues music, because that's just really my favorite type of music.
Absolutely. And it was interesting seeing the set last night, because you still try out some bits and pieces from other versions of the band, and then you're repackaging them, and because obviously from hearing the track, I think it was originally called Baby Doll or something like that, and then
Baby Girl,
Baby Girl, and you've renamed it, repackaged it, but fantastic song. Clearly, there's an awful lot of hits that's going to be there. Is that something that's a major focus for you guys? Is kind of like just breaking down genres altogether and just going, right, well, let's add a little bit of that flavour. People might not expect this, but actually maybe we'll put a little metal element in with some soul and mix it up.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, you know, that's someone, a fan pinned it. They're like, at one show, they're like, you guys are a musical gumbo. Like, you know, you just play all different types of styles. And that's one thing coming on a blues cruise like this, you know. And this actually has been a really, you know, kind of spaced out variety genre-wise of a cruise. You know, I've been on some cruises where every band is doing a shuffle, you know. And we don't want to be that band, you know. Like we just want to be able to throw out, you know. One of my musical heroes is Van Morrison, and you know, you look at him. He would start out, he'd do a blues, he'd do a you know, a reggae tune if he had to, man. And we just have no limits to genres, and the players are so good in the band, we can switch, you know, from some stuff like that. So very, very good to have, you know, when the guys are that good, man.
Absolutely, David. Who else have you been enjoying so far? Because obviously there's a lot of inspiration you can pull from these live acts that are going on throughout the cruise. Anyone you've been particularly looking forward to seeing?
Well, I saw Vanessa Collier. Loved her set. Good friend of mine is actually the drummer Byron, and he's been an influence of mine. When I first started touring, he was one of the first guys that I kind of ran into. So we kind of had that camaraderie kind of just birth, you know. And then from there, it's just, you see everybody on this boat. There's not one bad act at all, you know. So
no, I'm kidding.
Well, that drummer for 89 Volts terrible. But no, like it's just been great. It's been educational. You know, I try to pick up something from everybody, you know, and that's kind of what makes a musician better, is not being complacent. You know, always trying to learn new things and try to set them in your you know, repertoire, you know.
Absolutely. Now we're yet to hear you on one of the records, you know, because again it's in a lot of ways you're kind of new to the project. So when will we see some new music that involves yourself?
We're actually fine. You know, we've had a lot of fun on the road, but I'm kind of glad that we're getting home and we have 2 weeks off, and we're gonna be finishing up a record, and when I mean finishing up, we've already got about 5 done, so we got about 5 or 6 more to do, and I always like to have little jams just to have them.
Yeah.
But no, I'm gonna call David over one of those days, a few of those days, and we're gonna just I got a perfect song for him. You know, it's very hard, and I'm always, you know, I have the vision of the song, you know, before I ever record it, and normally I usually lay down the scratch drums and all that, so I have a hard time, you know, just, you know, giving it to somebody. With somebody like David, I mean, you know, they're like, I can always tell, you know, when a drummer's gonna be good is when how good they can keep up that 16th note, and he is just amazing at it, man. I mean, I think you do a 28th note on the ride, man. I don't know.
Yeah, there was all sorts of subdivisions coming out, you know. It was like, whoa, you know, it's crazy. Well, you see, that is the thing for sure, you know. Obviously the live thing is a whole different animal from what you put down on a moment in time captured record, but it does seem like such a wasted opportunity when you've got such incredible communication on stage for that not to be captured that way. So, you know, as you mentioned, you're still learning on just letting go of some of that and allowing that. What are some of the challenges you find with doing that?
Well, the challenge is when you're trying to make, you know, because that is our bread and butter, is live on the stage. That's you know, where everyone's smiling, everyone's having a good time. I try to do that with the studio, you know. That's what with Capricorn, a record, you know, we were all live, you know, in the room, and I always give, you know, the musicians, because a lot of musicians, especially in a big studio, that's kind of why I like recording at home, because more people are usually a lot more relaxed and they play like they really want to play. But you bring cats to a big studio, you know, they can kind of tense up a bit. So that's why I usually always have beer, pizza, and everybody, and you know, everybody can really start to like groove once they have a few beers. If beer's not their thing, you know, it's whatever. Some people like the green stuff, you know. but no, it's just I like, you know, all my favorite classic records. You listen to them. There's no clicks on them. There's no, you know, no metronomes. It's just getting in a room and doing the song, and that's really what I'm just trying to bring back. You know, this, you know, with what we have, you know, in our little home studio, we're not capable. I guess we are capable of doing everything live with the vocals, but I usually like to go over and overdub the vocals. Just, you know, unless, I mean, we had one track off of our Capricorn. We recorded our rehearsal in Capricorn, for Capricorn, excuse me. And we recorded at Capricorn. We ended up taking the rehearsal version because it sounded better. So the vibe is the best. That's the key of the heart of the song.
Well, absolutely. No, we're definitely feeling that from you guys. Now, you're one hell of a player as well. You know, as a great singer and songwriter. You know, what first inspired you to pick up the instrument?
They said I'd get girls, man. That's really, I mean, that's why I joined chorus, because my fifth grade teacher, she told me, you need to go to orchestra. I was like, there's no girls in orchestra, man. You know, and it's funny, so I picked chorus, and the whole time in chorus, I never learned anything. I said watermelon, you know, without saying it loud, you know, so it looks like I was singing the song. Man, you know, it was the scene. It was the group of kids. It was the group that was in, you know, high school and everything. All the music kids, like the band kids, not like, you know, school band, but like the kids that were in the bands. You know, we jammed in garages. And I remember being a drummer. My dad bought me this huge EV Electro Voice PA system, and it would have gone all the way up to the roof. And he gave me a bass drum mic. It was in a neighborhood, which was a terrible idea. And I had a double bass drum, and I'd mic the kit, and I'd practice. But our neighbors never complained, man. It was crazy. But I'd have, my buddy would see me the next day at school. He goes, "Yeah, we heard you." And he lived like 10 houses down, you know. But just jamming, man. You know, we played so many shows. You know, where we played in, you know, the shows where no one come to the shows. The bands would play in front of the bands, you know, and the sound guy. But that was how you learned, and you know, it's a slow, long process, but it's totally worth it, man.
Yeah, no, but for sure, and you're totally hearing that you guys have mastered that for sure. You're playing and talking about the fact that you were, you know, initially a drummer. It's no surprise because your timing is impeccable. It might be the strongest part of you. You know, maybe that is the most important thing about being a musician anyway, is having you know, that great timing. But a lot of players, you know, even maybe some of them on this cruise, you know, they don't always have the best time, and you know, it can slip off. What do you think is the key to really locking in, whether it be a little bit dragged, a little bit pushed, or focusing on the 2 and 4? Like, what's that $1 million answer to that?
Well, that might be more of a David question, but if I had to answer it, I've just listened to, and I'm not a really good bass player, but I just listen to, you know, if anyone wants to practice their time, I would say go listen to anything from Royal Studios or Motown stuff, and because those records, you know, more Memphis is more, you know, on time, but that's a great way to practice to get your timing right. Is just to play with those records, and you know, you listen to Al Jackson Jr. from the High Rhythm section. You know, he's just playing the most simplest stuff, but it makes the song. But he's pushing and pulling, and it's. But it's, I don't know, you got to have a right amount of it, because you could drag too much, and then, or you could play too fast and it's rushing the song. That's why there's the ever-evolving argument between me and my brother about the topic of groove, you know. And so a lot of people don't know what groove is, and, you know, some people do, some people don't. Some people have the wrong answer for groove. But honestly, if you want to know anything that grooves, you know, it's go listen to Bernard Purdie, you know. That's the definition of groove. Anything from those records, you know, with Jimmy Smith all the way to Aretha Franklin, you know.
And what about you, David, on that? I mean, you've clearly got it down.
You know, well, it's a forever thing to work on. You know, like it's one of those things where you just you're forever trying to match the vibes of the song, and sometimes even like different venues, different crowds. Sometimes you want to play the song a little bit slower, you know, or sometimes like the energy is really up, so it's like, let's keep that going.
Yeah.
You know, and like Eddie said, groove is so important, and to me, groove is basically, it's like an entity that makes people move. You know, makes people dance. So I mean, that's what we like to do, and when we see that, we're like, okay, we're doing our job.
I think something that really screams off the stage though as well, you know, literally, is that, you know, you guys play really fucking loud as well, and you know, not a lot of these venues that are on the shit, it's like, it's almost like they're not built for that. I mean, you see the whole stage, maybe you see the mic's going back and forth.
Oh yeah.
But you know, it's one of these ones, like everybody would love to be able to do that. Anyone who can play, you know, to really go out, and because when you're doing it loud and less loud, more power. That you know, that's that element, you know. But it's easy to lose control at that power. You both do this, you know, immaculately. How do you manage to manage tension well in some of these little flurries where you've got to do something super quick and then just chill it back out again? Like, what was the key to mastering that?
But once again, it's reading the room, kind of thing. Like, the last thing a band wants to see when they're playing is people in the audience, like, kind of doing that thing. And so when you see people actually enjoying it, there's no ears covered. It's like, okay, cool. Like, we have room to play around with the audience. Because it's like, we can stay at this volume and then we can just decrescendo, and drop the bottom out. And, like, that pulls the audience in. They almost kind of, like, get out their seats and come closer. You make it more intimate.
It makes us feel watching it like we're part of the show. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I mean, to be honest, you are. Like, because there wouldn't be no show without people there.
That's it. What's some of the craziest things then so far with these guys that's happened on a live show? Has there been some crazy moments so far?
Oh man! Well, every show is a crazy moment for me.
This guy's smiling already.
There's a moment.
Stuff that's legal, please.
Yeah. But no, like, I mean, I've had I'm one of the kings of technical difficulties on the drums.
Last night you got a stick in your throat.
So last night we were playing and I had my drink next to the floor tom and I'm playing and stick shards are going everywhere. So in between songs I'm like, okay, let me grab a drink, and I drank a stick shard and it was stuck in my throat.
Man.
I'm just back there playing and I'm like hacking, trying to and everybody's like looking at me like, yeah, like he's good. I'm like, yeah. Like my voice is even kind of sounding like it now. It was just like, I was just scratchy. I was like, yo, I have a splinter in my throat right now.
Oh man, that definitely is. And just talk us through your drum setup, your rig that you're using for these shows.
Oh man, it really depends on my mood.
Whatever they got.
Yeah, whatever they got. Like, I'm a big fan of less is more. And like, we'll do a show and I'll just have hi-hat, snare, floor tom, kick drum, and one cymbal, But then like there's some times where I want to go crazy. Let's add another tom or two, maybe have some more cymbals. But I just need the necessities. I've never been one of those guys where it's like I have to have 28 cymbals. And, but I'm like,
the dual rack.
Yeah,
it's such a it's the difference really between some of the greats and the others. Is just that you can just react to what you've got in front of you, or wake up and your voice is like this, and I'm going to use it. It's such an amazing talent you guys have, because for the rest of us it's just kind of like, oh, if the air conditioning's not right, I can't do it.
I mean, I'm the same way. Like I got very jaded with the fans, like the actual fans.
Yeah.
Because now it's like I'll start sweating and I'll start freaking out. Like on the boat, I haven't had any fans. Like it sounds weird when I say that. But actually,
the mechanical fan.
Yeah, the robots. And man, it's just like it's almost like I sleep with the fan at night. I just like to have that noise, and I always like to have a breeze on me. So that's kind of a little weird pet peeve that I have. But it's other than that though, I mean, everything's been great. The sound crew's been amazing. I mean, this boat is really above and beyond, man.
Yeah, you can, it's been a pleasure to be part of it. Now, one of the big influences on you from the Atlanta scene was a very special player that was taken far too soon. Could you just talk a little bit about that and the influence he had on your musical?
Yeah, the guy he's talking about is Sean Costello, and Sean Costello was a brilliant musician. Some of the musicians on this boat have played with him. Jimmy Vivino, we just had coffee this morning talking about it, and. Yeah, man, he was such a great, it was like one of this artists that I've just found, like he was a superhero to me, and he was in the Atlanta scene, and I was just watching thank God there's so much footage of him on YouTube, and I was just, every day, just come home from school and watch Sean Costello, and and then I was going down scrolling the comments and I saw R.I.P. and it was just like gut wrenching. I was like, I never got to see the guy. But Chad, my keyboard player, he played with him a bunch. So there's a lot of stories, that still go around. Everyone shares. He unfortunately suffered with bipolar, like really bad. And but on the stage, you never really saw it. And he could just he could play in a room full of one people, and it would have been like he was playing from 1,000. He always gave his complete energy and emotion. That's just what I try to do.
Absolutely.
And so people, they compare, the similarities, which I think is a high honor. I don't think I can touch Sean, but it's a huge honor for sure.
Seems to be an incredible strong bond between yourself and Chad. Is it hard to not feel that coming off the stage?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because I've been told by managers and even myself I need to go and play with my brother more. My brother, he's the bass player. He's just always,
he's got his own vibe though. You know what I mean? He's keeping it down there.
Chad is my happy place and my comfort place. And when I want to joke around in the show, I walk over to David, and and it's just like that because Chad's my comfort place. Whenever I'm getting anxious and anxiety, I go over to Chad and he gives me that smile and I calm down. And then if I just want to, what do you call it? Take the piss out of it. What do you call it?
Sure, yeah.
I go over to David, man, and he just cracks me up every time, and that's. And on stage and off the stage, I mean, we just try to make, me and my brother mainly, we get in these little bickering arguments and stuff, but we're pretty good on, as an overall, but we just have so much fun as a whole band, man. And like, we were talking to some of the bands on this boat, and they're just like, they were talking to us like, you guys actually look like, y'all love each other, y'all have fun. And because a lot of people, I mean, even in these big bands that are on this boat, they get done with the show, they're like, see ya, all right, have a good one, we'll see you tomorrow. And they all go to the room and stuff, but you'll find us at 2 a.m. every morning at the casino, man.
And I can guarantee that's accurate. Yeah, we see these guys all over, and you're interacting with the fans, and it's lovely to see for sure. What about for yourself, Eddie? Like, there's got to be some crazy moments that have happened when you're pulling out these dance moves as well. I'm surprised you don't fall over sometimes.
I have. I've fallen over one time with some. I had these new alligator shoes, and my dad finally taught me. He goes, "You got to run outside and scruff them up to get some grit on them."
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, so they said Eddie 9-volt, and I ran right out, and I literally moonwalked. It slid, and then I fell on my ass like a banana was on stage. But no, crazy things of I could go on, but that would be a whole other episode or whatever. But one time there was a cymbal stand that fell over from the wind, and it cut the main power to the stage, and like everything just stopped. The cymbal fell from the drum riser and cut the power. And the sound guy, he's like, I there's no way I can be mad. He goes, in my 50 years of sound, I've never seen this. So it was just, and that was the same day we had a Ford Flex that we used to tour in, and it would have a problem with we ended up disengaging the horn because the horn just always went off, and we walked off to go get food and mess around, and we came back and the horn was still honking. It had been an hour, and it was right next to the stage, and so I felt like a total jerk, but. Just crazy road stories. We got a lot of bar stories. You have to meet us in person to talk about.
Well, that's just an added element to going to one of the live shows. Is you never know what's going to happen, and we've seen. We made sure to catch you both, and we'll be seeing you again in another couple of hours because it's really unmissable stuff. Using just the back line that's supplied on the cruise, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, It's really easy because I've played with a Fender Deluxe Reverb, the reissue ones, and so that's what we've been playing with. And I just usually turn them around. I mean, they're only 22 watts. It's still a loud
sure,
amp. Yeah. And I just turn it around and I turn it all the way up. And sometimes I like to have a pedal if it's a very tiny jazz club, and they're real, they're looking at me like that. But most times, man, people always think it's loud at sound check, and when I first do it, they're like, "Oh God, that's loud." But as soon as you get everybody rock and rolling, it fits right in there.
And then the band all come in as well, and So you like to really have that amp cooking then, and then do you just sort of ride the volume on the guitar?
Yeah, just Esquire cable amp, and if I need anything, the amp's got it. It's got reverb and tremolo.
What's the story with that Esquire? Is it just stock or?
Yeah, it's totally stock, man, and I'm very lucky. I had a guy. Who reached out to me. It's actually a British... No, they're not British. They're always in England, which is why I think they're British. But it's a band called The Cold Stairs.
Okay.
Wonderful band. And he told me to message this guy at Fender, and I messaged him, and he told me he'd kill me if I tell the real story, but I'm here. Whatever. But he said, what's your dream guitar? And I said... I've had Fender Strats, and I got my Strat that I'll never get rid of. I've always sold tellies, and I'm just like, I've never found a good telly. And I said Fender, I said a Telecaster, and they sent me this picture of a custom shop Fender on the bench, and they said, will this work? I was like, will it work? Of course it will work. And so I was expecting them to send me like, you know, the just a regular old standard Telecaster, which I'd have been appreciative of. Anyway, they said, well, what's your address? And I was like, holy moly. And so literally the next day I got it. And it just was in the mail, and custom shot case, opened it, and I mean, I have a video online of me first seeing it. It was incredible. And yeah, I mean, I barely pick up another guitar, man. It's that good, and if I need to do a Strat sound, I'll do a Strat. I have a Les Paul, but I went on this tour, and I didn't bring it just to see if I could deal it, and 3 days in the tour, I was like shaking. I was having the shakes, man.
Look, guys, it's been a pleasure to chat. Thanks for taking some time out for us. But just before I let you go, very special occasion happening tomorrow that you mentioned on stage. You know, we're going into Santorini. You're going to get married. Congratulations.
Right. Thank you, man.
You got to be stoked. So, you know, getting the girls, it worked, yeah?
It finally worked, man. In the long run, man. That's the moral story of this whole band, is the long run, man. Everything, you know, you just gotta, in life too, everything happens for a reason, and it will get better, and you just have to keep doing it, you know?
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing you guys when you hit the UK, and congratulations on all of this, yeah?
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.